Hello everybody and welcome back to our next episode in our How to Make an Avatar series. So last episode we had quite a lengthy tutorial talking about toggles and the few different ways that toggles can be created, whether that's manually or with the AV3 Creator tool. I know that I had mentioned that there was like a few different things that I was wanting to do in either that tutorial or previous tutorials that I kept pushing off because I just was struggling to find where it really fit into the tutorial series. So today's tutorial, we're going to kind of catch up on some of that stuff, as well as we're going to start moving on to kind of wrapping up our avatar now that most of the tedious work is done, and we're going to start setting up a little bit of quality of life things. So first thing we're going to do today is we are going to go ahead and knock out that check move tool. Now that all of our toggles and our fizz bones are set up, it is the perfect time to test our weight painting with that tool in Unity, so that way we can jump back into Blender and fix any clipping or weight painting that we need, which I know at one point during one of these other videos I had noticed some clipping and weight painting issues on the avatar that I meant to write down what I needed to update, but I never got around to doing that. So we're going to do that today, as well as we are finally, and I'm so sorry that this is so late in the tutorial series. Like I said, I just wanted to find a spot where it fit, but we will finally be covering exactly that, of how to take your avatar from Unity back to Blender to do any updates, and then putting it from Blender back into Unity without having to redo everything we've already done. So that is going to be using the pumpkins tool. Once we get all of that kind of updated and situated, then we will move on to our facial expressions and idle animations. We're going to talk about contacts later in a different video. I kind of want that to stay separate. So once we get our weight painting and stuff situated, we will only be covering the facial expressions and the idle animations today. I want to keep this video, I don't know if it's going to be shorter or longer, but I want to keep all of this in one video because I get those questions quite frequently of how to make idle like ear twitches or tail wags and facial expressions quite frequently, and I see it asked around in a lot of other servers too, so I want this to be its own video before we move on to anything else. Thankfully we are very close to wrapping up this tutorial series, so we are almost done with our avatar. We have this video, we'll have one for setting up contacts, one for adding the last little bit things like SPS, Go Loco, icons, that kind of stuff, and then the final video. So we only have about 3, maybe 4, depending on how long some of these other videos go, until the series is finalized. So at this point, if you don't really use facial expressions, you don't really care about Go Loco or idle animations, contacts, anything like that, then you are good to skip to the very last video of how to export. If you want to export your avatar to use it commercially, or if you want to just upload it to vrchat, you can skip to the last video. That's where I will cover all of that separately in its own last video, so that way you can skip ahead. But I do want to include these next few videos because this is just the stuff that most people add to their avatars, especially commercial avatars, and that I add to most of my avatars. So I just wanted to kind of put out a little disclaimer that if you're not interested in setting up this extra stuff, it's not really necessary. You can move forward to the last episode. Now that you have all of your materials, your fizz bones and your toggles are done, then the majority, I guess, quote unquote, of your avatar is done. But these little quality of life things I feel like really can take your avatar to the next level, especially as a commercial seller, because it's just really helpful for our desktop users to have like Go Loco, and then people love facial expressions and things like that. So yeah, not necessary, but these next few videos are going to be covering that. I'm sorry for rambling. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Sorry about that. I wanted to pull up my little list of what we are doing today. That way I have everything set out so I can stay on schedule. So this is where we left our avatar off last time, and like I said, the first thing we're going to be doing is running our check tools animation. So I've talked about this last time, and I will include a link in the description for this animation. I think I might have linked it in a previous video, but just in case I didn't, then I will link it in this video's description so that you have it. But it's just this little animation. I don't remember where I put it, if I'm honest. Give me a second. Okay, so now that I have found it, I apologize. It's been a little bit since I've worked on this avatar in this series, but once you get your animation imported, like I've said before, I always recommend doing this kind of stuff on a duplicate avatar just in case, something goes wrong, which I'm going to delete since this one already has. So just in case you don't, just Control D and it'll make a duplicate of your avatar. I always recommend, like I've said before, duplicating your avatar for any animations you're either creating or testing, just in case it breaks your avatar, because having a controller on there sometimes can do that. It's not always, it's just kind of one of those Unity bugs to try to avoid. So once you have your duplicate, you can just take your animation and you can just drag it directly on and it'll give it a second. Sorry, she is running super duper duper slow today, and you see it's created this controller, so I'm going to pop that on there. Now we can go into play mode, and we're going to watch that animation play. So this is what the animation is. It's basically just somebody recorded this in kind of, I guess, in full body is the best way to put it, and it's going to do all kinds of different stretches, so you can kind of like almost like test your avatar in full body without testing your avatar in full body. It's really, really helpful. So yeah, I still need to fix the bangs, but it's just going to loop whenever it's done so that we can swivel around. We can check for some clipping. There's some clipping there on the back of the pants. The ankles seem to be fine. And then it's going to start over once it does a few more stretches. Okay, the back of the pants are a nightmare. Oh my gosh. Good Lord. Okay. To be fair, I have not like super overly tested. Okay, so I'm just going to swivel around one more time so the back of the jacket's kind of clipping a little bit. But this is super helpful so that you don't have to get in full body, or if you don't have full body, then you can test for any clipping. Because some of this clipping, it's not always, in my opinion, the easiest to find in Blender. Because, in Blender, like, you can take this leg bone and move it, but it might be a combination of the leg bone with the torso, or, like, the chest bone or hip bone, whatever, twisting that might be causing that clipping. So, I don't know how many times I've gone in Blender and, like, moved all the bones around trying to find any clipping, didn't find it, and then I get into game and there's clipping everywhere. So I'm just going to pause this real quick. I will be right back with you guys. I'm just going to write down a little post-it note, the things that I have found, and then we will jump over to Blender to start fixing those things. So real quick, I wanted to pop in here and say, like, I took off her jacket and I'm testing the gloves right now. Something to keep in mind though is I did add, if we remember, I added these like blend shapes like for the arms clipping. So if that's something that you've added, we need to do our bounding boxes, which I will discuss that in just a few minutes, or maybe in one of the next videos, just to kind of keep it organized. But just remember that if you have any of your blend shapes already set to do your clipping, just do what I did. Just click on whatever you have your blend shape on and turn it on. Because now we can see that those are active, so that whenever she goes back to moving her arms, I know, okay, well, once those, the gloves or the jacket or whatever are turned on in game, then this is how it's going to be, so I can actually properly check for clipping instead of worrying about it when I actually have that blend shape there, if that makes sense. So I'm going to watch this just one more time just to make sure I got everything, and then we will head on over to Blender. So I think we are all good. I have written down everything that we need to take a look at. So with that being said, I'm going to start launching Blender. While I wait for this to launch, just to kind of recap what we're going to do, we're going to come into Blender, we're going to fix any of the weight painting. I don't know if I'll leave that included or not, since it's something that we've already covered, but we're going to update all of that, and then I will show you guys how to put your avatar back into Unity without having to redo everything. And just as a little reminder, we're going to be using Pumpkin's avatar tools to do that. So if you haven't already got that downloaded and installed onto your creator companion, make sure that you do that. Where is it? Manage project. So you can come in here. It's something we've talked about on one of the previous videos. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, make sure to go back to the video that's titled like getting started in Unity. And you'll want to make sure that you have Pumpkin's Avatars tools installed onto your project. And that away, we can just jump straight into it. So I did delete the chains. So let me delete that on Unity because I ended up absolutely hating the chains. I didn't like them on the hair. The weight painting was like super duper duper weird for whatever reason, which is not necessarily anything against the creator of the hair. I think that got messed up since I had done like a hair merge. It kind of messed with like the bone weight painting for the chains. I wasn't really a huge fan of them anyway, so I deleted them. So now we are going to work on updating our weight painting. I'm not really going to talk much during this because it's, like I said, stuff we've already covered before about how to do your weight painting and blend shapes and stuff. So I'm just going to kind of time lapse this and then we'll go from there. Alrighty, so as you have seen, we have gone through and fixed our clipping. As you saw during that time lapse, some of it I did with fixing the actual weight painting, and some of it I did with just pulling out the mesh a little bit with the sculpting tools. Honestly, in my opinion, there's not really a right or wrong way to do it. Obviously, fixing the weight painting is preferred, but for me, at least personally, whenever I have like multiple bones, like I have the thigh jiggle, the thighs, and the butt bones all interfering with that one section of the pants, sometimes it's a lot easier to just pull out the mesh a little bit to help it avoid the clipping. I wouldn't really say that there's a right or wrong way to do it. If you can fix the weight painting, cool. If not, then sculpting is a great way to get rid of the weight painting, because sometimes the mesh is just a little bit too close to where whenever it deforms, it's going to clip into that body. So whichever way is best for you, once you get all of your clipping done, you are all, or clipping fixed, you are all set to go. So you're just going to want to re-export it. I would suggest re-exporting it with a new name. It's just going to keep things a little bit easier for you. So if I name this like 1.2, so I have her there. We're going to make sure to turn off our leaf bones again. I'm not going to say selected objects or anything. I want it to pull everything out. So I'm just going to add a little bit of a something to the end of the FBX name, so that Unity can tell a difference. And then we are going to leave play mode. And I'm going to delete this. This is the duplicate that we were testing the animation with. I'm going to scoot her away from the world origin, and don't come for me yet. I know what I did, and it's perfectly okay. I know normally it's like, no, don't take your avatar away from the world origin, but that's not going to be our avatar anymore. So I'm going to drag in the 1.2 FBX that we just exported. All right, and our new FBX has just imported. So we're going to do the same thing that we did before on our normal one. We're going to set it to a humanoid rig, and then we're going to go in and configure the bones, make sure that all of that is set up just like we did whenever we first imported it. So kind of repeat the same process whenever you first imported your FBX from a few tutorial videos ago. All right, so now that we have our new FBX reset up to the humanoid and everything, we're going to drag her back over into our hierarchy, and there she is. So I'm going to just rename this one like old or something, just to kind of keep things a little bit easier. So this is our new one. This is our original one. So now the issue is we want to set up all of the materials, the fizz bones, the toggles, everything that we have already done on this one, you know, setting up our menu, our FX, lip sync, all that kind of fun stuff over onto this one. And you don't want to have to redo it all. That's where Pumpkin's tools comes into play. So if we come up here to the top and we go to tools, pumpkin, and avatar tools. We open this up, it's going to say avatar right here up at the very top. This is where you're going to want to put your new FBX that you just put in. So we're going to drag that over here. This is our 1.2. And then sometimes you might have to scroll up. Sometimes it like defaults down to the bottom. But you're going to look for this section that says copy components. And that's whenever you're going to drag in your old one. And I normally leave everything check marked. Something that I do find super duper helpful is if you go under... It's not prefabs. Hold on. Let me find it again. So if you go under skinned mesh renders right here, I don't believe it defaults as check marked on because I didn't know this for the longest time. So I don't believe it's defaulted on. If it is, great. But just to double check, come under here, just extend this down. You're going to want to make sure that right here where it says materials and blend shape values, that those are turned on. You can leave on game objects if you want. That's for things like these little empties. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on as well. And that should be it. Yeah, that should be it. That we shouldn't need anything else. So what this is doing is it's telling it to copy over the descriptor, our prefabs, so like how it's set up, like what is toggled on, what's toggled off. Of course, our fizz bones are colliders, and then the mesh renderers, which is basically, and the skin mesh renderers, which is, you know, basically, like I said, it's just the materials, the blend shape values, all that kind of fun stuff. So this will copy everything over. And if I pull this over here and I go copy selected, ta-da! So now she is set up the exact same way. All of our materials copied over. There's our FX, our lip sync, all that fun stuff. And if we extend this down, there is our game object. We'll just have to duplicate it again. But yeah, and then if we turn this on, you can see all of our fizz bones and colliders are still there. So the only time that I feel like this doesn't work very well is whenever you have like a follower system or particle system. It doesn't always want to copy that over because that is technically like a new FBX that you attached to your avatar. So I would recommend getting your avatar fully done and set up before you add all of that stuff. Because I've tried to copy it over before, but especially whenever I've had like contact systems like a grabbable weapon or something, the best way I can think to put it is it copies over the like contact system and the location, but it all is still technically registered to the old avatar. So even if it might show up in the same spot on my new one, if I was to hide the old one, it's hiding everything over there. So, just keep that in mind whenever you're using pumpkins, that if you have like special systems on your avatar, it might not copy over properly. So you might have to reinstall all of that. If it copies it over perfectly, then great. I just know before I've had trouble with it copying over stuff like that. So just kind of keep that in mind. So just for safekeeping, I'm going to leave this old one there. I'm just going to hide it for now. And I'm going to unpack our prefab and duplicate this a few times, and I'm going to reorganize this really quick. All right, and there we go. So now we are all reorganized back to how we used to be. Oops. Oh, and it for some reason kept on the hair chains, which we actually don't want, so we're going to delete that. Okay, so yeah, we should be all set now. And now if we want to, we can make a duplicate and check our weight painting again. Whoops. So now we can come back in here. We can go to our systems and we can grab that same controller, toss that on there, make sure to save before we go into play mode. And now we can go check our weight painting again. The bangs are acting a lot smoother now, so that is good. The back of the jacket seems to be doing better. All right, the legs are still clipping whenever we are twisting. So I'm thinking that has something to do maybe with the hip bones. It's doing better whenever we do that like leg out thing. So it's just whenever we're doing like that really, really big twist movement that it still clips right there. and whenever we lean back. So yeah, I think that has something to do maybe with the hip bone. So that's something that I can go back into Blender and take a look at. Some of that leg might have accidentally gotten weight painted to the wrong bone. So I'm going to jump back into Blender and fix that real quick until I get it situated. And then we can move on to bounding boxes and then work on our facial expression stuff. So I'll be right back with you guys once I get that fixed. Alrighty, so I have just finished going through in Blender and fixing up that last little bit of weight painting and clipping that was going on with the pants. So now we are good to move on to our bounding boxes and facial expressions and idle animations. So first things first, I think we're going to go ahead and do our bounding boxes first. So basically bounding boxes are whenever you're in game, if you've ever like stood too close to somebody's avatar or too far away or looked at it at a certain angle and like something disappears, that is basically the bounding box. So the bounding box is this little thing. So this thing, the best way I can think to describe it, I don't even know if this is accurate, is it's basically saying that like it had like, I don't know, like things have to like all match up to where it's saying that this is where all the items are contained, I guess, so that if it's like not within that area it disappears. I don't know, it's really kind of hard to explain, but all I know is that it messes things up. The best way that I can think of to handle bounding boxes is for going off of your body bounding boxes. So this is what I do, and I believe most other creators do, but going off of your body's bounding boxes and then attaching that to the rest of your assets is how I've always been able to fix my bounding boxes disappearing and my assets disappearing. So what I do is I click on the body and I'll just sit here and copy and paste all 6 of these numbers onto all of the rest of them. So I'll just shift click everything and then use control and I'll unclick my little dividers and then just paste it into the center. And I'll do that again for all of them. It's easier if you don't add your dividers, but I didn't think of that before, so we're going to deal with it. And I'll just sit here and do this for all of them. And so now, as you can see, with all of our assets selected, they are all under this one box. And so now whenever we go in game, we shouldn't have any issues with anything disappearing. It also happens sometimes if you're like recording with your camera during like showcases, you know, we'll like zoom in or zoom away and something will disappear. That is how you fix that. So that is very, very quick rundown of bounding boxes. Very, very super quick and easy fix. I think there are some tools out there that'll auto do it for you, but I'm not very familiar with them. So that's just how I manually do it, is just go through and copy and paste everything. So now that the bounding boxes are done, we can move on to our facial expressions. So I am still on the duplicate avatar, which I did not mean to do the bounding boxes on the duplicate, but that's okay because I don't have a controller on her, so I'm just going to delete this one. I just freshly duplicated her, so she doesn't have any animations on her, so we should be good. So I'm going to make a proper duplicate. I'm just going to rename this one so it's a little bit easier, and we are going to make our facial expressions. So to do that, and we'll handle like the fake index gestures and stuff later, which I know kind of go hand in hand with like the facial expressions, but we're gonna handle that in a different video. It's super duper easy to set up, but I just prefer to do all of my like last little bit stuff later. So I'm gonna head over to our animations, and here I'm going to make another, you don't have to make another controller. I just prefer to make another controller. I don't know, I just feel like it's easier to edit down the road. And then I'm going to come into my animations. Let's make a new folder. Call this facial expressions. And then we're going to come in here and make all of our animations that we want her to have. All right, so I've made 7 empty animations. We're just going to select all those, drag those onto our anims avatar. And so now they are attached to that expressions controller that we've made. And so now with her selected, we can come onto our animations tab and we have just our facial expressions. That's why I prefer to make a second controller for just the facial expressions, so that we're not having to add it onto our FX controller or maybe our matte swaps controller, whatever other controllers that we've worked on, and I have to like scroll all the way down to be able to find them. It's just a little bit easier in my opinion to be able to do it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and hide her mask so that we can see her face a little bit easier. and we're going to hit record, and we're going to start recording. So for facial expressions, there's a few different ways that you can do it. One of the ways that I used to, and that I was initially taught to do, was like doing add property and like telling it to add all of them and then edit just the ones that I want. You can definitely do that. If you know, that's what you want to do. You can come into head. I think it's head, skin mesh render, I think, and then you can add them all. What I normally do, I just feel like it's a little bit easier, is I'll just click on the head and then I'll just record, whatever, animation that I want. So I'm going to do these real quick. I know you probably just saw her face kind of look funky. I will explain that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and set this up and then I will show you how we can fix this. So this is for that face. So let me go ahead and, sorry for talking a lot. I'm just going to kind of fast forward through this part. Okay, so I've added just a few of the blend shapes just to kind of make this like cute little like bleep face, this little like tongue sticking out face, but her face looks like really freaking weird, right? So this is something called Legacy Blend Shape Normals. I believe I had talked about this whenever I had talked about first importing your avatar, but since we have updated her with the pumpkins, I don't think I did it on the new FX. So just in case you're like me and you forgot, what you need to do is go find your FX or your FBX, click on that, come over to model, and then it's right here where it says Legacy Blend Shape Normals. You're just going to want to check mark that and hit apply. And that's going to fix it looking funny. So now if we click on her and go back to animation, her face looks normal again. At certain angles, it might still kind of look a little funny. That's just because of the outlines, which you don't have to have outlines in the matte caps. That's just how my materials are set up, but now it fixed it all. So what that was is basically it was just reading the normals kind of wrong. So once you check mark that, then that fixes it. But yeah, like this line here and stuff, that's just from the outlines on her material, which you can get rid of. You can put a mask if you don't, if your asset came with like a mask to avoid the outlines or whatever. So totally up to you. But yeah, that's how you fix that. So I'm going to go through and add in all the blend shapes for all the facial expressions that I've made. Like I said, I hit record and then come in here and edit or add in the ones that I want. And if you end up adding one and you don't want it and it stays at 0, you can leave it. It's not going to mess anything up. And if you want to, you can just hit this and hit delete key and it'll get rid of it for you if you want to keep it a little bit cleaner. Alrighty. And so our facial expressions are done. And as you can see, Nessie on her head did include some presets. Most of them I prefer to go through and just kind of do my own little like combination of, like the different blend shapes, but sometimes I like the presets, and Nessie set some of them up perfectly, and I would not change a thing. So, except for this one, actually. And I think that's because of me on the head edit, so I'm going to fix that real quick. But yeah, I just used some of the presets for a few of them, and then the rest of them, I manually set them up. So once you get them all situated, then here in just a second, then I will show you how you can actually assign them to your avatar. But let me fix this real quick. Okay. So now that all of your facial expressions are done, I'm going to hide our anims avatar, go back to our main avatar, and we're going to go over to the FX layer, and you're going to come up here to the all parts. Now, quick little disclaimer. For facial expressions, I'm going to keep it so real with you guys. I do the bad, and I use right defaults on my avatars. Please, fellow creators, if you see this, don't come at me. Every time I try to add my facial expressions with right defaults off, they get stuck and they do not work. Per vrchat, you are not supposed to use right defaults. I use right defaults because when I have them off, they break. If you, whenever you're setting up your avatar, you feel like right defaults on is breaking, then, I would suggest setting them up with right defaults off, and vice versa. I would also highly recommend just kind of browsing through YouTube and like searching like how to set up facial expressions from a few different creators, because there's a bunch of creators out there that use it with right defaults on, and there's a bunch of creators that use right defaults off. So depending on which one you feel more comfortable with or might be potentially giving you issues, there's tons of tutorials out there for how other people might do it that might be a little bit different than how I do it. So I just want to let you guys know that this is just personally how I set up my facial expressions, because this is so far for me been the only way I've been able to get them to work. That does not mean that this is the most preferred way or the most optimized way, or that this is how all the creators do it, because I have multiple avatars from multiple other creators and I've seen like all kinds of different ways people set them up. Not like in terms of like creating it or assigning it to your FX, but more of like this next step that I'm going to talk to you guys about, or in terms of like the right defaults and stuff. So just know that if whatever I'm about to do doesn't work for you, I recommend checking out some other tutorials that maybe do the opposite of what I do. But I just wanted to throw that little disclaimer out there. So what I have to do to get my facial expressions working, this is just for me. I come through and I remove the masks. I just click this little gear, remove mask, and I just delete them on all parts, left hand and right hand. That's just from a different tutorial that I watched from a different creator. They explained why having the mask off helps your facial expressions not get stuck. I honestly don't remember the reason. That's just what I do. And then on both the left hand and right hand, I highlight everything, including the idle layer. I check mark right defaults on and check off this motion time parameter. Again, it's been explained to me why, and I just don't remember. So I'm gonna just be honest with you guys. Now, sometimes I have noticed that if you leave in this like proxy hands idle, proxy hands fist, whatever, like if you leave these in, sometimes it can cause things to get stuck. So if you have something like this idle and you don't have an idle animation currently in there, then you might just want to delete it. Just click on it and delete it if it's causing you issues. I normally delete it just out of habit, and then I'll go through and add the rest of them. Later on, whenever we get ready to add an idle blink, we can talk about how to make that stuff kind of toggleable, but most people that I know of will add the idle blink, like something that they want constantly on and they don't want it to be a toggle. They'll add it into these hand idle spots. So you're more than welcome to put your blink there if you want to. If you want it to be a toggle, then you'll basically make the animation and then just set it up like you would any of the other toggles. So that's something that you can do if you want to put it in the idle section. But for me personally, I normally will just delete that. If I have an idle blink, I will put it in there because I normally don't make that a toggle. But for the rest of them, what you can do is you can come over to the fist, and in that motion spot, you'll just add in whatever animation you want it to be, and you'll do that for each thing, each animation. All right, so I've gone through and I've added them all. Personally, I make them match on each hand. If you want to have more than the 7 facial expressions, you can make your left hand do specific expressions and then your right hand do specific expressions. There's a tool that I'm going to show you guys called Combo Gestures that helps you edit things, so that if maybe you have your left hand point do animation A and your right hand point or your right hand piece or whatever do animation B, you can set things up to where they can do separate things, but then if they're on at the same time, they can make a third animation. So like there's all kinds of crazy stuff that you can do and a huge range that you can do whenever it comes to facial expressions. For my avatars, I normally keep it pretty simple, and I just make them match on both, and I don't have combo gestures just because personally me and my friends that I know of don't really use facial expressions very often. So I've just never like put a ton into having a crap ton of facial expressions, but it is definitely possible, and it is something that you can do. And there's actually been a lot of really cool things that I've seen people set up for their avatars with like different like idols or particle effects and stuff whenever their gestures combine. So that is something that you can do. And I'll show you guys the tool that I'm talking about. I don't really use it myself, but it's something that you guys can't do. Let me see if I have it imported. Hold on. I don't. Okay, so I do not have it imported. I apologize. I thought I did. But it's from Hi, of course. And it's just called combo gestures expression. So if we pull up our, sorry about that. If we pull up, let's just Hi combo gesture. And it's on GitHub right here. And you can grab it. I believe they do have some tutorials involved, but it's basically this. It's not something that I use, and well, I have used before, but I haven't used in a very long time, so I'm not the most comfortable in making my own tutorial about it. But if I'm not mistaken, they have the tutorials, and they also have a Discord that you can join. But this is basically it, where you can pull it up and you can, like I said, you can say, these are my hand gestures, these are the expressions, and then if these ones combine, then I want them to do all these different things. So it's really cool. Same thing like a lot of the other plugins we've gotten. It's just on GitHub, and it's by Hi, and I highly recommend it. It's a very, very cool tool to be able to combine things if that's something you wanted to do. But for my avatar, we're going to keep things simple. And that's pretty much it. Whenever you go to make your facial expressions, you just add in your animations into each thing, and then you're good to go. So very, 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 very simple to set up your facial expressions. So another thing that I would recommend is if you do, like I said before, if you notice that your facial expressions are getting stuck or are doing weird things, it could be a right defaults issue. So I would recommend just checking out other tutorials, on if you need them on or off. For me personally, every time I turn them off, they get stuck. But the combo gestures expression thing that we just looked up is another really, really good tool for helping them get unstuck. Sometimes just going through, I'll use that tool and I'll just set them up exactly like I just did, and I'll just say this. For these ones, I don't really do any of the combo stuff, and then once I tell it to assign it, then it seems to fix it. But in the meantime, if you want to check your facial expressions in Unity, you can use the lovely gesture manager that we used for our toggles. So we're going to jump onto that in play mode. We'll come over here, and I'm just going to turn off her face mask real quick so we can see. And then it's right up here. You can, I think, use these as scroll wheels. I just check mark it. Her stuff is changing, and you can go through and change it on both hands for all of the different gestures. So super duper cool, super nice, easy way to be able to test your facial expressions while in Unity. I am going to go ahead, and I know I said I wasn't going to, but I'm going to go ahead and do it real quick. We're going to go ahead and add our fake index gestures, just because my brain is kind of on it, and I want to be able to add that real quick. I know I said I was going to do it, and I even wrote it out on my little plan to do it later, but it's so easy. If you want to set up your fake index gestures, what you have to do right here is where it says gesture default gesture. Once you have it installed, you're going to take this controller that they have and just drag and drop it on there. Makes it so easy. And then if we come back over here, let's set her to no, sorry, states T-pose. So if I set her to T-pose, see the little fingers moving a little extra, and then rock and roll is now middle finger. I personally, it's not something you have to add. I just like adding it for my desktops peoples, and I also used to be on Rift, the Rift S headset, and I missed having the index hands. I just liked the way that the fingers moved a lot more, so I add it to my avatars, just as something else. If you don't want it, of course you don't have to include it. So there is that. I think the last thing that we said that we were going to set up today was our idle animation, so we can do our idle blink. You could do an idle ear or a tail. I am going to personally set up an idle wing animation and maybe a tail. Did I include a tail for her? I don't think I did. Hold on. Oh, I did. Okay. So I think we're going to make idles for those. You can also make them for the blink. And I'll whichever, I'm rambling. I'm sorry. We're going to set up our idle animations now. So it's the same process as kind of what I was trying to get at for blink or wings or tail, but I want to show you guys For sure the wings, and then if we can get to it, the blinks, but for sure the wings, because those include fizz bones. So that's a little bit of an extra step I'd like to be able to talk to you guys about. So I am just going to do what I've been doing. Make me a new controller and a new folder. And we're going to come in here and make our animation. So idle blink. And then idle wings and idle tail. And you can make these be on your avatar at all times. You can make them be toggles. It's completely up to you. So we're just going to drag those onto there. Whoops, which that has the expressions. I did not mean to do that. So idles, and then drag our animations on there. Boop. Now, if you've noticed, most of our animations are not on loop time because for the toggles, like we've said before, we just want it to click and it plays it and then it's done. We don't want it to sit there and dissolve over and over and over. But since these are idles, we actually do want them to continue to play until the toggle is turned off if we want it to be a toggle. And if not, we just, of course, want it to loop all the time. So make sure that whenever you're setting up your idles, you turn on loop time. It's very important. So now that we have her, let's go ahead. I really don't want to start with the blink. I really want to start with the wings, just so that I don't forget this very important step. So for something that has fizz bones, like our wings or our tail, or your ears, whatever it is that you're wanting to set up an idle animation for that has fizz bones, it is so important that you go to where your fizz bones are for that item. Like the wings are on the wings root, tail's on the tail root, and you come down here to is animated. It's at the very, very bottom of your fizz bones. You're going to need to check mark that on. It's going to pop up and it's going to say only do this if you're animating the bone transforms. Yes. So that's what we're going to be doing. So we're going to want that. Now for the eye blink, the eyes don't have fizz bones, so we don't need that. But for anything that does, like your ears, wings, tails, if you wanted the belts, to sit there and sway or something, anything that uses fizz bones, make sure to turn that on or it will not work. So now that that is done, we can go ahead and go into record. And I'm going to swivel around to the back so we can see her a little bit better. And I'm going to take off her ponytail so we can see nice and clear. So for the... delete. Go away. Record. There we go. Okay. So for the wings, I just want them to kind of animate, maybe going up and down or something. So if we are on record, we come down to our spine, our wings root. I'm going to turn this on so that we can see a little bit easier. So the wings root is right here, right? This is where our thing is. Our root is connected to I think it's the spine bone. So we don't really want that specific thing to be what's moving. We actually want what's below it. And so you can, of course, click. So these are the two little bits up here. And these are the two lower ones. I mean, you could go however far out. Oh, I had that backwards. But anyways, you can go far out to whatever, fizz bones you wanted. But let's say I wanted these two. So what we can do is we can click on that. And I'm going to change this instead of the arrows to the rotating tool. And I'm going to scroll out because I don't want to start on 0. That's very important. I feel like whenever it comes to setting up idles, don't ever start animating on 0. Because it's going to make it 10 times harder to make it actually properly loop and go back to a resting point. So let's say I'm going to come out to the 20 milliseconds, right? So I'll come out here and I'll move this up. So I'm saying I want at 20 seconds this to come all the way up here. And this one to come all the way up here. And then I want these ones to maybe come in. Something like that. And out. Right? You can set it up to do whatever you want it to be. All right. Oh, something very important. I have it on global. you want things on global instead of local. Local does it like in a weird way. I don't know how to explain it. It just does it in a weird kind of a rotation. Sorry for my pausing. So now we have, and the reason that we did this all the way over here on 20 is now it auto recorded to the 0 location being how it originally started. So now we can go back and grab that if we ever need to, but now whenever it loops, it's going to go back to its resting pose. So like, let's say I want that to come up here, and then I want it to go back, and then I want it to do the opposite. So if I had it go up, maybe I want it to go down. Something like that, right? It's not perfect, but this is just kind of for demonstration purposes. But let's say, oh, that's at 50. I wanted it here. So now it's all 20 seconds apart. It's going to play super duper fast. But now you can kind of see what I mean, right? Like it goes from our starting to our first, back to starting, back to down. So it's cool for like, if you want something like go in a circle or something, I don't know. But then I can take this one and I can put it at another 20 seconds. Hello. And now it'll loop. So it's cool for like your tail if you want it to swing to the right or to the left. So if we have it go to the left, and then so it starts at the middle position at 20 seconds, it'll go over to the left, and then at 40 seconds come back to the middle, 60 seconds it'll come back to the right, 120 it'll come back to the middle, and then it'll restart. So since it ends and starts at the same resting position, then whenever it restarts, it'll go back to the middle, and then it'll go back to the left, and to the right, and so on and so forth, which we will do that here in just a second with the tail. But just so you guys can kind of get like a gist. And this is like really, really fast, and I don't really want it that fast. So you can make your animations however long you want them to be just by scooting over your keyframes. Something like that. It's still a lot faster than I would like it to be, but now you guys have like a gist of kind of how to set up your animation. So I'm just going to fix it to how I want it to be real quick, and then we will move on to the next one. Okay. So now that I've got that set up a little bit more how I want, we can move over to the tail. So, oops, the tail is not turned on. Hold on. Give me just a second. Tail. There we go. So now that our tail is turned on and we went through and animated, we told it to animate. And since it's on the root bone, it's just like how fizz bones actually work. Since the root bone has fizz bones and it applied it to everything below it, it's the same thing. So since is animated is applied to this one, we don't have to add it to all the other ones, which I just realized it said add fizz bones here, and I'm trying to figure out why. Oh, let me fix that real quick. So basically the reason that the creator put that there, which huge thank you to them, if we have it in here, it's going to be kind of like clipping out of her body because that's the root bone. So they actually want it to be here, which is more correct. So let me fix that real quick. Give me just a second. Okay. So I moved our fizz bones down. Go back to our tail. I moved it down so where it's supposed to be now. And now do the same exact thing. So if we come over to zoom out a little bit. So like here's our like 30 seconds. Here's our 1 second. So let's come over to our 30 milliseconds. Let's go over to the 1. And something really cool is you can animate, kind of like I said before, you can animate more than just the initial bone. So if I wanted to come down here, let's say I wanted like the tip to kind of curve. Right? Like I could do something like that. So it kind of like more naturally. It's maybe not the best placement, but you can kind of get the gist. Oops, and I did not mean to put that over there, so I'm going to just stack that where it needs to be. So now it kind of swings over here, and then I can take this and I can go to like the 2 second, and then I can do the exact opposite over here. So if I come over to like the 3 seconds, we'll do the same thing. So kind of want it to rotate. Whoops. Yeah, I still feel like it kind of swings out this way like a little bit too much compared to how it does here, but you guys get the point. So now, same thing as we did with the wings, if we play it, you can see it kind of swings side to side, and then, you know, since it loops, it won't do that like snap back, but let me add that real quick. So that was 3, so if we go to 4, there we go. And once it's actually on your avatar, that little like pause that it does whenever it's restarting, it won't really do that. It'll be a lot more smoother in game. But now you can kind of like get a gist for how to make idols. And it's going to be the exact same thing with the head for the, oh, this is the blink. I have made a grave mistake. So I accidentally recorded everything on the idol. I recorded the tail animation on the blink animation, and then went to go delete this idle tail animation to like rename it. Anyways, I accidentally deleted everything. So I'm going to reset it up real quick. But yeah, for the, oh gosh, sorry, I messed up my mouse. For the blink animation, it'll be the exact same thing. You'll just, you know, pick a frame that you want it to start at, you know, come in here, record the blink, and then just kind of keep doing it for however, you know, whatever keyframes you want it to be at. So once I get it set up, I'll show you guys what it looks like whenever it's done. I'm going to fix the tail animation real quick, redo that. I'll set up the blink animation, and I'll show you guys what it looks like so that you can have a visual of it. And then we can add that to our avatar, and then we will be done. So I'll be right back with you guys. Okay. So I have fixed the tail animation, and I'm starting on the blink animation. I'm going to be real honest with you guys. I'm probably going to go back through and edit this to be a little bit more of how I personally would like it to be. But I just got a text from my family members, and I did not see the time. So I kind of need to quickly wrap up this tutorial. So I just kind of want to like more so show you guys, and I'll work on getting it to my own preferences. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll work on getting it to my own preferences later, but just to kind of show you guys, this is kind of what it looks like. So it's just the one blink blend shape. But I came over to the one, the 60 second or the 60 millisecond, the 1 second, frame, and put the blink animation all the way up, which means that it starts at 0. And then I just kind of copied and pasted that 0 to be where I want, so that it's saying for all of this time, stay open right here. Slow blink, which it's honestly not very slow right now. Oh, sorry. There you go. It's not the slowest, so I would probably more so make it something a little bit more spread apart. See, so it starts at saying open, 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 and then from right here, start very slowly going up to closed, and then slowly open back up. And then you can just kind of spread it out however far you want, and like if you want like a little like double blink moment. And then if you don't want it to play again for so long, what I normally do is this, and I'll leave like a really big gap between, it's driving me nuts, between where I want the last blink and for how long until I want it to start back over. So if I want her eyes to stay open for a solid few seconds, then I would leave that and then let it come back and start playing the animation again. And that's how people make little slow blinks. It can be as slow or as quick as you want it. You can have little double blinks. You can have super flashy blinks, you know, whatever you want to. Yeah, just remember to leave it on with the 0, just like we did with the wings. Like you're going to leave it on that rest position so that whenever it loops back properly. So that's how you set up the idle blink, wings, and tail. And it would be the same thing if you had ears. And then what you're going to want to do to assign it to your avatar if you want it to be toggled, you don't have to. So like if you don't, like for the blinks, I normally don't have that as a toggle. So, you know, you could just come in here and assign it as like the idle animation on your hand gestures. But like if you did want it to be toggled, you would just set it up exactly how you did before. So you would basically go through and what I would do is actually I would probably make, hold on just a second, let me think this through. Okay, so I think what would be the best way to set these up as toggles is to make a null animation. So to do that, what you're going to want to do is go to your avatar. You're going to create an empty, I'm going to call this null, and we're going to come on to, sorry, I meant for that to be on our animations avatar. My apologies. Turn her back on. So we have our null. We're going to call this empty animation. And we're going to record this null object being turned off and on, right? So there is no object. It's being turned off and on. Now the thing is, we're going to come over here and we're going to delete that, so that it shows up and it says game object is missing. So this is what you want to create a empty animation. And the reason that we're going to do that is we're going to use that for our toggles for our idols to basically say, you know, to go from this animation playing this idle thing to this empty animation to help it turn on and off. So if we're going to call this idle wings, for example, I do want them to be defaulted on. And we're going to do, whoops, idle tail, also defaulted on, and idle blink, also defaulted on. I'll add that to our parameters as well. Right, and then we're going to come over to our layers, and just like before, we're going to set up our layers, and we'll turn it all the way up to 1. And then what we're going to do is we want our default to be for our wings to be on, and then we want them to be able to be toggled off. So we're going to drag in this empty animation, and we're going to set it up just like we do any other bool. Toggle. And we want wings and wings false. All right. Oops, I have that backwards, sorry. All right, so we just set up our layer just like we would any other normal toggle, and then we're going to come into our menu and go ahead and get that added really quick. So let's call this idols. Make that sub menu real quick. So if we do idle wings and we make it a toggle, we have our wings, right? So now if we go back onto our gesture manager, it should be working to where it's going to play our wings. There they are. And you can see now with the fizz bones, they kind of have that little bit of extra movement, and that loop is a little bit more fluid than it was like once it gets to that and then it goes down. Still kind of pauses whenever it restarts, but that down animation is a lot more smooth than it was whenever we were first recording it. So now she just has like a cute little little idle wings, nothing crazy, but just a little something to add a little bit of life to her. So now that's going, and then we can come in here and turn it off and back on. So that is the beauty of setting up an empty animation, is we can tell it, we can use that for things like this that so that we don't have to basically make another animation with all of those animations that we did or all of those frames for those wings and like reset it all back to its original resting position, because that can go sideways. You can accidentally put in the wrong numbers. It's super tedious. So just making that empty animation lets us be able to say, hey, when this is on, you need to play this animation, and whenever we tell you to toggle that off, that animation no longer exists to you. So now the wings are just going to go back to how they were before. And we'll do the same thing with the tail and the blink. And that way people can toggle that on and off if they want to. And just makes a little bit nice little quality of life moment for anybody that might be using the avatar, or for you if you decide maybe that you don't want those idols playing. So I'm going to go ahead and work on wrapping up this tutorial, since I do need to work on getting ready for some family plans tonight. I'm going to go through, like I said, I'm going to go through and adjust the idle blink to be a little bit more how I would prefer it to be set up. I'm just going to space out the timing a little bit more to my preferences. But yeah, there's nothing really else that I'll be doing off screen until the next tutorial. So that should be good. Alrighty, so wrapping up this tutorial, we did quite a few things, but small things. So we talked about how to update our avatar for any clipping and weight painting that we see after using the check tool animation, which I absolutely swear by. It's a huge time saver. Definitely helps, especially if you're lazy like me and you don't always want to get in full body to check stuff. Then you can check that. Pumpkins being the perfect tool to put our avatar back into Unity after we fix what we need to in Blender. We fixed our bounding boxes so that nothing disappears, and then of course we set up 3 different idols for the wings, the tail, and the blink. And of course it would be the same process if you wanted something like an ear twitch idol. As long as you have your fizz bones set as animated, then you could go through and position everything how you want to. And then the last thing that we talked about was setting up a empty animation so that you can make your idols toggleable. Not everyone makes them toggleable. If you don't want them to be toggleable, then all you would need to do is just make an FX layer, throw on that idol animation, and then leave it. You don't have to set up the parameters or it being on the menu if you don't want it to be a toggle. But if you do want it to be a toggle, then now you know how. So next tutorial, let's see. We will be starting really close to wrapping things up. We're going to go ahead and talk about contact animations. I'm not going to do a ton for this avatar just because I don't really normally involve a whole ton of contacts. But we're going to cover how to set them up. I'm also going to, in the next video, reference a different channel that I always reference back whenever it comes time for me to set up contacts, just because they're a lot more familiar with it than I am. As well as I'm going to tell you guys about how to set up grabbable objects. I don't have anything to be a grabbable toggle or an object on this avatar, so it's not really something I can show you guys, but I would like to point you guys towards the video that I've used to set that up. So if you wanted to have like a sword on your hip or something, or like a pet on your shoulder that you want to be able to grab and do a world drop, or set it in the world, or just grab and then let go and it snaps back, I'll point you guys to where I have learned how to do that. Like I said, I'm sorry I don't have anything on this avatar to actually walk you guys through it myself, but we'll cover the videos and the channels that I have referenced for my own avatars, and I just follow them step by step so that you guys at least know where a starting point of where you can watch some tutorials on how to maybe set that kind of stuff up. So next video should be pretty short. We're going to make 1 or 2 contacts, and I'll show you guys how to do a contact for like maybe have like a decal or like a particle animation or something. We'll kind of cover some of that stuff, and then the one after that, there'll be 2 tutorials after that. We'll move on to adding our Go-Go Loco and adding icons, and then we'll be done. So very close to wrapping up this tutorial series. Just kind of a lot of like little quality of life things that you can add to your avatar just to give it a little extra something. So I will see you guys in the next tutorial. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below or join my server and ask there. Normally my server will be the best way to contact me, but I will say at the time of recording this, I'm hoping to have this series up and posted on YouTube within a few days after recording this. So normally I wouldn't include this in a video since I know people could watch it like weeks and months down the road. But since I am hoping to drop all of this within a few days on YouTube, I did just want to toss this out there that I am going to be going on vacation here within the next few weeks. So my Discord might not be the most active way to contact me since I have that vacation coming up, and then over this summer I'm going to be out of town quite a few different times. So if you do end up joining my server, I super duper appreciate it. Just know that if you're not getting any questions there, you're more than welcome to leave a question on my YouTube channel as well. I do my best to check both. So normally I would say my Discord server is the quickest way to contact me because I check that more than YouTube. But since my summer is coming up and is about to be very, very busy, either way is going to be probably the best way to contact me. There's not really one over the other. So sorry for the little ramble. I just kind of wanted to toss that out there so that if you are more comfortable with leaving a comment on YouTube or leaving a comment in my Discord server, then I will be checking both as much as I can. Just bear with me that it might take me a little bit to get back with you guys, but I hope that this tutorial has been helpful. I hope the series has been helpful so far, and I will stop rambling now, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!